Shalom. Call Haloyam La Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahapushai, Bahashim, Racha Kodash. Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahapushai, Brakatah Ha Kodash, Bahashim, Yahapushai, Bahashim, Racha Kodash. Shalom and double honors to the elder apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to the elder bishops and the elders and the Akim and the Akwath of the hopeful elect. Shalom. Just wanted to go into a quick video entitled, well, it says Daniel chapter 7 breakdown. This is going to be part 3, dealing, with the third beast. So we'll go ahead and get right to it here. Go ahead and go over to Daniel chapter 7, and it starts at verse 6. Then these presidents and princes, it's Daniel 6, Salakians. Daniel 7 and verse 6. After this I beheld. A real quick recap of the last video. That was the bear. The second beast was the bear, which was the Medes, which started first, and then the It was the joint rulership, superpower empire of the Medo-Persians. The Medes took down the Babylonians. Darius the Mede took down Belshazzar, and and the Babylonian empire at that time when Belshazzar was king of Babylon, and then the Persians rose up greater within their joint rulership, in that period. So first beast was the Babylonian Assyrian Empire, and then the second one was the Medo-Persian Empire, and then now we're going to the third beast. So it's a succession of empires, one after the other, in order right there in that time period. So here, Daniel 7 and 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast had also 4 heads, and dominion was given it. So, dominion is, a kingdom, world became the world superpower. So, a leopard, and so it had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also had 4 heads. So this represents a, men, those 4 wings goes into 4 different men. So it just, the Most High broke it down 2 different ways. The wings representing different men, and then the heads is the same thing. So we'll go ahead and get into it. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Okay, so right here, Alexander the Great, so-called great, he's a devil, the Edomite. But had to, just reading this, reading right there, Alexander right there, kind of got caught in a moment of reading that line. He's not, these are proud titles given unto men, Only one's great is Yahweh, right? So it's Alexander. He was known for wearing a leopard skin hat, and it's amazing, how historical facts and things happen that reveal the Holy Scriptures, when you look at archaeology and artifacts and discoveries and findings, and, what we've learned through history to help sustain, that adds to the learning of the Scriptures. So Alexander, he was known as wearing a leopard skin hat, and very interesting. It's not a coincidence that he wore a leopard skin hat, right? Another picture of another, graven image, which is wicked. Proves that these people are heathen, and the Most High is not dealing with the heathen in it, because they do exactly what the Most High say not to do, right? And even 2/3 of our own people do that as well. And I have no problem with these statues of basketball players outside of these basketball arenas, right? The Jordan statue, graven image, and Kobe and Allen Iverson and Magic Johnson, so forth and so on, right? And Shaquille O'Neal, I believe, they partake in idolatry and wickedness. But so right here, this exposes who that leopard is. This leopard beast, it's the Greek Empire that came into play, and we know that the Greeks took down, Alexander took down the Medo-Persian Empire. So, and he has even a a piece of clothing that confirms he's that leopard as well. So that's the leopard, the beginning of the Edomite supremacy, that becomes what white supremacy in these days, right? So this was the beginning of their relevance in the earth, because prior to the Greeks around 331 BC taking down the Persians, the so-called white man, the Edomites, they were insignificant all the way throughout existence until then. They were not significant. And they finally had their time. They finally began to rule in the earth around 331 BC, about 1,500 years. About not 15, about what 2,000, about 2,500 years ago or so, roughly 23 to 2,500. Finally got their time to reign, and now it's been a reign of complete wicked terror, upon the earth since then. So, they failed in 300 AD for 1,000 years, and they got shut up in those caves and came out during the Renaissance period about, 600 years ago. So, and they back to their evil, Satan was loose for a season, and that's what he's doing right now to deceive the nations again. And he's at the end of his reign, and he knows it. That's why he's coming down with great wrath, because he had the short time to reign. This is it for him right here. We're in the feet and the iron mixed with miry clay right now, before that great storm return, who is Yahweh Shah, and destroy his whole existence here. So, okay. Now let's get from there. Let's see, Daniel chapter 7. Okay, no, not 7. Let's see. No, let me see. I'm at the wrong one. Now we go to Daniel chapter 8 and verse 4. I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward. Yeah, and southward, so that no beast might stand before him, neither was there any that could deliver out of his hand, but he did according to his will and became great. Now this is talking about the Medo-Persian Empire. Just want to touch up on that again real quick, because this was when they pushed from the east, and they went west, north, and south. That was the three ribs in the mouth of the bear, right? When they took down all the other nations around, throughout the known world at that time, and became the world superpower. And then they took over. And then verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So Daniel was receiving this vision. He saw the ram doing this thing, right? Took over the Medo-Persian Empire, and then after that, after he was looking and checking everything out, seeing what the ram was doing, receiving that vision, then he saw the he-goat, and he came from the west, from the left side, right? He came from the west. And his feet touched not and touched not the ground. And what does that mean? Meaning that's how fast the he-goat was moving, because the Greek Empire, Alexander, he conquered, he destroyed and took over an incredibly large amount of land, and took down all the kingdoms in a very, very short period of time. Meaning that he took over very quickly, right? He destroyed the other nations real quick, took over real fast. That's what it means when it says, and touched not the ground, because he was moving so fast, taking over all the land in a very short period of time, faster than anybody had ever done it. Let's see, real quick, we'll get Job chapter 24 and verse 18. He is swift as the waters, their portion is cursed in the earth. He beholdeth not the way of the vineyards. So Esau, his portion is cursed in the earth because cursed through his being stripped of his melanin. That's why he needs to put on sunscreen to protect. That's like synthetic melanin, to protect himself from the sun. So he's cursed from there, and then the lands that he has, he's cursed as well because it doesn't yield the strength of it, as that's a prophecy of Cain. So real quick, we'll get the translations real quick. In the NLT, their own mothers will forget them, maggots will find them sweet to eat. No one will remember them. Oh, Slakia. It's the wrong one. I'm trying to get verse 18. Sorry about that. So NLT, but they disappear like foam down a river. Everything they own is cursed, and they are afraid to enter their own vineyards. So everything they own is cursed because they've gotten everything through deceit and injuries and bloodshed, right? Woe to him that buildeth the town with blood, right? With iniquity. And that's what they were doing. They swiftly destroyed everything and took over. And the way they do things is a lot, more heinous and blasphemous and profane than anyone else in the earth. So we'll get Genesis 4 and chapter 4 and verse 10. And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground. And that's the same way the so-called Blacks, Latinos, Native American Indians, the Israelites, our blood is soaked throughout the soils of the whole Western Hemisphere and throughout the four corners. So our blood is crying out as well. So our blood will be recompensed, but it's just not time yet. So when you read that, you can understand that when a man shed blood, his blood crieth unto the Heavenly Father, and that person that murdered him will be judged, right? They tell us to forget about the past, about slavery and everything, because it was a long time ago. But the Most High, the blood is still crying out, and the Most High will recompense eventually, because He's allowing everything to build up to that great climax of Yahushua's return. So verse 11, and now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened her mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thy hand. So see, now Esau, he got cursed, and he's going to always be cursed in his seed. When thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength, meaning the agriculture, the farming is not going to be strong. It's not going to be the best. It's going to be very, very weak, especially over in Europe. That's the bottomless pit. It has no natural resources over there, and they have to import everything. That's where the beast was revived over there, the European Union and NATO, right? And then extending over here to the Western Hemisphere. Everything's made in China. They don't do anything. It's just they're cursed at every turn, and they have to use the other nations to do everything for them, and they being cheap, outsourcing, the money, outsourcing the jobs to save money, and it's coming to bite them, and coming back to bite them because, with these tariffs and everything, they're just so many multiple layers of cursing is coming down, and recompense and judgments, and layers of plagues are coming upon this nation. That's a part of them being cursed. So when thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto thee her strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shalt thou be in the earth. So that's that going into that curse, and that swiftness, is putting those pieces of the puzzle together, the mystery. And verse 13, and Cain said unto the Lord Yahweh, my punishment is greater than I can bear. And that's what he always do. He blood is nothing in his eyes, right? And committing crimes and sin and blasphemy and profanity against the Heavenly Father, he's totally okay with that. But then as soon as the judgment comes down, or he gets rebuked, then he cries and plays victim, right? Very wicked and very filthy. all the Edomites. So we'll go to Isaiah 34 and 5. For my sword shall be bathed in heaven. That's going to the thermonuclear missiles. Behold, it shall come down upon Idumea. That's the Esau, Edom, and upon the people of my curse to judgment. So that's the end time prophecy. And that word Idumea, right there is Edom. See Idumea right there? Boom. Edom red, so that's just a Greek English translation of the word Edom. Because that's the, how the serpent try to get down, but we have the Holy Scriptures. We have the Hebrew and the Greek to go into because it's properly translated. But we that's why we go into the Greek and the Hebrew and the Greek to confirm certain words. So now we'll go to Daniel chapter 8 again, in verse 5. And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground. And the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. So, he swiftly conquered, the land, did Alexander, and that great horn, that notable horn between his eyes, that's going into Alexander. That was their greatest king. Like Nebuchadnezzar was synonymous as the greatest, king of Babylon. Nebuchadnezzar was. Same thing with Alexander. He was the greatest king. He was the first one, and then the greatest king, of their Greek empire. That's that notable horn. He was the head of that charge of this he-goat. The Greeks taking over. So let's see. So now verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great, and he was strong. The great horn was broken, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. So now that's going into those four wings and the four heads. That was on the back of that leopard, right? That we read in Daniel chapter 7, verse 6. So it lets you know right there that great horn, that was Alexander, was broken. He died, and then after he died, it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. So four notable ones going into the four wings and heads. Those are the four generals that was close to Alexander. And so when Alexander died, the Greek empire got broken up into his four generals. Okay, let's see. Let's get verse 16. And I heard a man's voice between the banks of Ulai, which called and said, Gabriel, make this man to understand the vision. And verse 20. The ram which thou sawest, having two horns, are the kings of Media and Persia. So then verse 21. And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. That's the king of Greece. That's Alexander. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. You see? So that great horn, and who was the first king of Grecia, aka Greece, the Greeks? Alexander. So that horn was the first king. That great horn was Alexander. In verse 22. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. So with different powers that rule in different manners. So that was the four generals that stood up and took over. They divided up the Greek kingdom into four different kingdoms. So those four generals, spoken of, those four feathers and those four heads. So that's what that's going into. So the Most High broke down all these nations, the so-called white race. They don't hide, they don't get to hide and run, and the Most High didn't forget to cover them. In His prophecies, the Most High has everybody covered, all the heathen rulerships, and prophesied that they will rule and when they will rule, right, and who they were going to take down. But the cave beast, he tries to hide this information, and people, they don't even consider nor study or read. They just listen to false Christianity and whatever other false denomination, and take that down and not read the actual scriptures and receive the understanding from the Holy Spirit. So okay, so now we'll go ahead from there. Excuse me. Go ahead and get Daniel chapter 11 and verse 2. And now I will show thee the truth. And behold, there shall stand up yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be far richer than they all. And by his strength, through his riches, he shall stir up all against the realm of Grecia. And that's going into Alexander. So the 3 kings is going into 3 different kings. Well, 4 kings of Persia. And then at the time of that 4th, then that's when Alexander, the Most High, rose up Alexander to go ahead and wage war against the Persians to take them down. Let's see. Verse 3. And a mighty king shall stand up, that shall rule with great dominion, and do according to his will. Verse 4. And when he shall stand up, his kingdom shall be broken. And that's going into that notable horn, that great horn, which is the first king of Greece, which is Alexander. So when he shall stand up, that's going to when Alexander took down the Persians. His kingdom shall be broken, and he died. And then right here, and shall be divided toward the 4 winds of heaven. We just read that. His 4 top generals, that took over and took their portion of the Greek Empire, right, and went their way and ruled in their own manner, and not to his posterity. You see, because not to Alexander's posterity, meaning what his bloodline. So his sons did not. I believe he didn't have any children or didn't have a son. His kingdom was divided not amongst his seed, nor according to his dominion which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up, even for others beside those. So his kingdom was plucked up, meaning, it broken up into those 4 generals that took over. So that's what that prophecy right there is speaking about. That dark saying right there. Let's see. From there, we'll get First Maccabees. First Maccabees, verse 1. Chapter 1, and let's see. Chapter 1 and verse 1. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, and that's how you tie together, trace the Edomites. They went by Macedonians, and then they became Greeks, because Alexander's father, Philip, was known as the Macedonian, right? It's because they were Macedonians for a period. They changed their names, like a chameleon. And then they changed their names from Macedonian to now Alexander went by, stole the identity of the ancient Greeks, which were dark skin of the sons of Japheth. So that's another topic, but just to touch on that real quick. And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes. It's funny because Darius, he was the father of, Darius, he was the first king, of the Medes. He took down the Babylonians, and then there's another Darius at the end, when of the Medes. So like the Persian Empire kind of faded a bit, and then the Medes was kind of at the end ruling a bit and took down Darius, another man named Darius of the Medes. So, it's a different Darius than the one that took over the Babylonians. Has smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned, and instead the first over Greece, and that's that first king of Greece. Let you know, I show you right there, Alexander the so-called Great is mentioned in the Bible, but they don't let you. They don't. This is why the Apocrypha is not. So it was a group called the Bible Destruction Group in the 1800s that took out the Apocrypha. These books of the Bible. Apocrypha means hidden books are sent away. So, because in the 1611 version, King James Bible, the original translation, these books and the so-called what they call the Apocrypha it's in the Bible. If you go and you can buy the 1611 version, King James version Bible off of Amazon or wherever. If you can get it from a Christianity store, whatever that sell, the Christian books, the Christian bookstore, whatever. Find the 1611 version Bible, and the Apocryphal books are in there because that's the original. These were in there. These are all fluid books that all go together. So Alexander the so-called Great mentioned in the Bible. Further proof of who that he goat with that notable horn, that first king of Grecia. So going back to, let's see, and then we'll get his get verse. I'll come back. Okay, I'll come back to that. Okay, let me see. Now let's see. Daniel 8 and 21. Okay, and the rough goat is the king of Grecia. You see, that's Alexander, and the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. So just to come back and confirm that again. Let's see. First Maccabees 1. Okay, First Maccabees 1 and 2 through 6. And made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. You see, Esau, he gets real proud. He's not humble. After he took over these nations, he got puffed up in his spirit. He had a haughty and lofty spirit, a high spirit, and was very arrogant and very proud. And verse 4, and he gathered a mighty strong host, and ruled over countries and nations and kings, who became tributaries unto him. And verse 5, and after these things he fell sick, and perceived that he should die. See, and when he stood up, his kingdom was broken. That means he died. Verse 6, wherefore, and there's rumors, that he was, homosexual too, and that's not a surprise. That's their culture. Verse 6, wherefore he possibly, contracted a virus or something, or it was also noted that he was probably betrayed and was assassinated as well, or poisoned. There's always a lot of gray area with these devils when they recall their history, because they're not sincere, genuine. They're always deceptive, and it's always gray area that they love to play in. Okay, wherefore, then but when it comes to condemning another nation or people, chiefly the Israelites, it's always black and white. Want to nail us to the wall with something, but he always want to slither when it's something that he needs to be nailed to the wall for, right? The devil the Bible speaks of. Verse 6, wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable, and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. See, that's those four wings, and those four wings and those four heads. Verse 7. His war generals. So they grew up together. They were real close. Verse 7. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. See, he had a very abrupt, very short life. And the Most High, it should show, the Most High don't be dealing with these Edomites. He used them for his purpose, and then, that was it. This is just the will of the Heavenly Father, and how He's allowing the course of life and on earth, to transgress. I mean, not transgress, but transpire. Let's see. From there, we'll get what? Okay, so verse 8. And his servants bare rule every one in his place. And after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years. And evils were multiplied in the earth. So these four generals, they took their areas that they were assigned, and they were able to take, get assigned and appointed, and then, their bloodline, their seed line would rule, after they died. So Alexander's posterity, or his seed and his bloodline, did not take over the land, right? Yet those four generals, their bloodline and their seed, will rule in those areas as kings. They had their bloodline, and their sons would become, kings. The kings after that, on down through their bloodline, and not Alexander's. Okay, so let's see. Okay, verse 9 again says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So it shows you, who's the wicked and who's the evil in the earth. Whenever they rule, evils are multiplied, right? The heathen, they're all, they're wicked, but then you have the wicked, though, the evils multiply at a horrible rate, at a horrible level, whenever the Edomites take over. The Most High never said that about the other nations when they took over, right? That evils were multiplied, but when Esau took over, right, evils are multiplied in the earth. There's already evil there, but when and you take evil and then you multiply it like 10, like a number 10, right? 10 is there, but then you come and you multiply 10 times 10 or 100, whatever number. So evil is there, but then Esau takes the evil and he multiply and add unto the wickedness. He's supposed to add unto, righteousness. Like people adding sin into sin. That's what Esau does, but he multiplies it. He multiplies evil, a whole lot more when he gets a hold of when he's in rulership, and he has the authority to multiply that evil. Let's see. 2 through 6. Okay, read that. Now going back to Daniel, chapter 8 and verse 18. Now as he was speaking with me, I was in a deep sleep, on my face toward the ground, but he touched me and set me upright. Let me see, verse 22. Now that being broken, whereas four stood up, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. See, his power meaning his posterity, right? His children. The four kingdoms stood up because four different men, his war generals, took over, and their power, it went in their power through their bloodline and their seed line, right? Because we just read that their sons ruled in their stead as well, after they went to their dominions that they received. So the Most High Code, he has it all broken down here. Yeah. So let's see. We'll get did I read this one? First Maccabees 1 and 7. Okay, yeah. So Alexander reigned 12 years and then died. And then let's see, Daniel 7 and 6 again. And then that's how it's all put together and you read it again. Verse 6. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. The beast also 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. See those 4 heads, those 4 generals, those 4 wings. I said feathers, and I think I said feathers a couple times. I meant wings. So like I think I said feathers earlier. You have 4 wings of a fowl, so that's going into different generals, and the 4 heads also, and they received that dominion, meaning what those 4 different. The Greek Empire was broken up into 4 different, basically like 4 quadrants, right? And that general and his seed, his bloodline, his sons were ruled after him in their manner. So let's give me one sec. Okay, right here. So a little outside historical context to add into it. It says, while conquering the earth might be an overstatement, Alexander conquests were indeed rapid and extensive, and that's when he goes into what Scripture said his feet, that he goat, his feet touched not the ground, because he was moving with a lot of speed, conquering these different countries, defeating them and taking over these other countries, becoming a world superpower. Alexander the Great's so-called great conquests were indeed rapid and extensive. He built a vast empire in a relatively short time, from 336 to 323 BC, encompassing Greece, Persia, Egypt, and parts of Asia. So, and then it talks about the speed of his conquests. Alexander's military campaigns were known for their speed and efficiency. He was able to defeat the Persian Empire in a decade, a feat that involved crossing vast distances and facing formidable armies. So it shows you, if the Most High is with you, it doesn't matter who's going to be against you, because when the Most High appoints something, it doesn't matter who it is. They're going to prosper, and they're going to succeed, because it's the Heavenly Father's will. The prophecy had to come to pass of the leopard taking over, that rough he-goat taking over that ram with the 2 horns, the Medo-Persians, that bear, right? And it was in the will of the Most High, for at least this is supernatural, right? The speed and how he conquered everything. That's only the Most High giving them that strength to be able to do that and overcome those strong armies that were dominating at that time. The act of the Most High was divine intervention right there. Okay, so said yes, Alexander died prematurely at the young age of 32, after ruling for only 12 years. You see, the Holy Scriptures already broke it down already. His death followed a 12-day illness, potentially involving fever and paralysis, which may have led to a misdiagnosis of his condition. So see, poison, assassination down here possibly. So, just how Esau gets down. Give me one sec. Okay, right here. It says, after the death of Alexander, his vast empire was divided among his generals, ultimately leading to the establishment of 4 major kingdoms. See, that's those four wings, aka, and then the 4 heads, those 4 generals, 4 kingdoms: Ptolemaic Egypt, Seleucid Empire, Antigonid, Macedonia, and Kingdom of Pergamon. You see, Ptolemaic Egypt, Seleucid Empire, Antigonid, Macedonia, Kingdom of Pergamon. So those are those 4 heads, and it's all in the Holy Scriptures. The Most High prophesied that, right? And it came to pass, which is real heavy. So yeah, that's the 3rd beast. Quick breakdown there. So it was a good amount to get into and go ahead and touch on and just show you that the Most High has everything planned from the beginning. The end is declared from the beginning. And as the prophecies come to pass, you truly understand and see it. Look at history and how prophecies came to pass. And that's the beauty, because we know what's coming if we stay in the spirit, Lord Yahweh willing, we never have that spirit taken away from us in the name of Yahweh Shai, right? So this video was edifying, and then the next part will be the fourth beast. And Lord willing, I can go ahead and do more verses after breaking down these four beasts, to go ahead and do the chapter a little quicker. So with that being said, I hope this video was edifying. The water to the Hakodash Bahasham. Yahweh Shai for another video. Until next video, I say, Shalom.